WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Communications Channel 16 proudly present the We Should Know Show, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative. Now, here's your host, J.W. Simmons, as we consider closely what we should know.
Welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. I'm J.W. Simmons, your host. We're pleased to come to you today on a subject that's critically important to the community, to people around you, and many of you maybe, and unfortunately, have faced this in your own family. It's National Foster Care Awareness Month. And two folks that know a lot about that and has been engaged with it is Jane Dudley with the Sampson County Department of Social Service and MeLisa Newman. I want to thank both of you for being with us today. This conversation, Jane, I'll start with you. You've been on the show before. You kind of understand how we roll here. But foster care has taken some major hits over a period of time here, just as we're coming on the air today. As you're aware of, there's a bill in the House to do something about foster care in the state of North Carolina, particularly the state taking over more of that. The things that you see through your eyes is critically important. And MeLisa, I look at you. You do this also on a daily basis. Just talking with you before we came on air, I can tell your heart is really in this. So I want to kind of start big picture wise. Where are we with foster care? And with all the moving parts happening today and all the media sound bites we're seeing, some of it looks pretty delusional in the sense of foster care. Are we keeping pace? Is there enough effort there? Help us understand why foster care is so critically important to this community.
I think that one of the major challenges that we have in Sampson County is having enough foster homes. Currently now we have 111 children in our custody in Sampson County. And we have how many homes did you say, MeLisa?
We have 13 homes.
13 homes. So do the math. The majority of those children are placed outside of the county, which means that when we have to remove them from their family of origin, they have to change school districts. They have to change their church if they were involved in had a church family. Their doctor has to change. Their whole community has to change. So not only are they being removed from their family, they are being removed from their community because we don't have enough foster homes in this area. So, and MeLisa will talk a little bit more about that later, about how you can become a foster parent. But we face placement is a big challenge for us. Having appropriate placements. When children come into care, they're leveled. So depending on the behavior issues they have, if they come in and say it's a baby, I mean, there are no maybe behavior issues with the baby, so we can place them on what's called a family foster home, a normal foster home. But if they come into care and they have a higher level of behaviors, they may be placed in a therapeutic foster home. And there's a different criteria for those foster parents. So we have the opportunity here in Sampson County for folks to become licensed and provide a nurturing, loving home for children who are in our care. And we encourage anyone who's interested in that to reach out to us.
MeLisa, I know you do this on a daily basis and you see eye to eye with a lot of these folks. Why are we experiencing this level of foster care? Now, we're in a rural area here, but as I look at statistics statewide, this is a big issue. And nationally, I mean, it's National Foster Care Month. One of the big goals for the national level is educating the public on what you see. Help us understand what you're seeing and why, from your perspective, we're having this huge influx of children that have nowhere to go. I mean, we talked about homelessness on this show a number of times, but children, it makes me want to preach a little bit and say, my God, what do we do?
Right. I think a lot of it is fear. The criteria for being licensed definitely is rigorous. For those that do not understand that it's a process, A lot of times people do not want to invest that much time into the 30 hours of training, going through all those background checks. A lot of them think that they just won't meet the requirements because they're not married, they're not rich. But those are not always barriers that cannot be met. The agency is not looking for a perfect home. The agency is looking for a home that is willing to invest this time in the kids that need them the most. Also, more kinship placements, the criteria for that is not as rigorous as being a licensed home. So if there's more family members that are willing to step up and provide their love, their time to these children, they can be also licensed now. And it's not the same requirement because we want more family members. Who does a child need to be placed with? If there's family members available, let's place these children with family that are willing to do so.
One of the things I want to touch on and try to get this in early on, we might reflect back on it, but House Bill 612 that's now in the General Assembly, where it goes, I'm not sure, but a lot of the premise for that was based on a foster care situation in which children ended up in an adjoining county to us that it was very brutal and a horrible experience for the children. In fact, some of them died as a result of it. And so as a result of a documentary, there was this whole issue that occurred with the foster care system. And so now House Bill 612, is looking at taking more state control. Jane, I'll start with you on that. What should we make of that? Should we take a different look at our local DSSs, or is the state correct? Maybe they should have more oversight?
A lot of states already have that in place. I mean, our state is, I think, unique in that we still are county. We're state governed, but we're county administered. But many other states have gone that route. Our state Department of Health and Human Services is very involved already, even though we're still county administered. So I don't know how different it would really look. We'll see.
The dynamic with this, Melissa, when we think about it, is what you do and what others do in jobs like yours. Is there enough people? Is there enough time? Are people stepping up? Clearly, the statistics say, nah, we don't have enough foster homes. What is the pushback on that? What causes folks to hesitate? And are we paying too much attention to something else and not looking at a real grassroots issue?
I think right now, a lot of times what people are looking at, like I said earlier, is that criteria for being licensed. They think that it's more intense than what they can handle. They fear that a charge that they may receive back 20, 30 years ago will affect them being licensed. I think that sometimes having that family involvement through the shared parenting that must be done, a lot of times it hesitate people to want to move forward and be involved with DSS. Of course, DSS has a bad name. A lot of people just don't want to be involved with having all those monthly contacts.
Home visits, people coming in and out of your home.
Yes. And just like I said, just really putting that time in. And I always go back to say to them, hey, if your child had to be placed in a home, wouldn't you want us to do a background check to ensure that there's no ongoing issues that's going to affect that child further on? Sure. So we're going to do that in-depth background check. We're going to ask you difficult questions because we have to ensure the safety of these children in that home. So we're going to do the tough things. We're going to ask the tough questions.
And JW, I think that this is just historically a time in history where I don't care who you are, where you live, what country you live in, it's a stressful time on earth. And people don't want to take on an added burden. And not that children are burdens. I don't mean it that way. But what I mean is an added responsibility, especially if it involves all the things that she just said, and maybe a child that has behavior issues. And so people are just trying to simplify, I think, and get through the daily grind without being asked to do even more, if that makes sense.
It does. And Melissa, I think this is this is a heavy weight. What Jane is explaining, this for you, I mean, not just the foster parents, I'm talking about for the provider, for the DSS people. This is a weight for you because you see it on a daily basis. This is constantly in your headlights.
Yes, very much so. I think when I think about the staff that I supervise, the day in, the day out, they're on the road, they're traveling, they're trying to make sure that their children are safe. They're trying to make sure their well-being needs are being taken care of. They're preparing for court. They're trying to work with the parents. I mean, everybody that's involved in maintaining safety for these children, their lives are very stressful. The added weight, there's not a day that none of us go home thinking, did I make the right decision? Are these children safe? There's not a day that goes by that, could I have done more? What else needs to be done? Just ensuring that child is safe, because you never want a child that suffered abuse, neglect, they in for dependency to have ongoing issues, that abuse is steady going and nothing is being addressed for them. So that's the worry that we take home every day. Is that child safe? Yeah,
and I'll just add that the best day at DSS is still not a great day because of the situation that we're dealing with, because we're removing children from their families. We're intervening and we're dealing with drug issues or housing issues or children who are being physically abused or sexually abused. So, we come in with the knowledge that, okay, my job as a social worker, my job as a social work supervisor or whatever, and I'm going into work today and I'm going to be faced with children who have been maltreated.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to pick up on a word that you just used, which I think is critically important, and that's the word innovating. When we look at this, and again, when we come back, I want to kind of get your input on what are we missing? What do we need to do differently? And the word collectively, we as a society, we as folks that work with DSS, what do we need to do to make a significant difference going forward? So ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking about National Foster Care Awareness Month, and hopefully you'll pick up on some information and you'll choose to step up and help. We'll be back in a moment.
Welcome to Cork and Brew Roseboro, where you can enjoy your favorite coffee, fraps, smoothies, bakery items, sandwiches, and select beer and wines while reconnecting with friends and family. Sit down and enjoy the experience. Come on by and give us a try.
This year, when you get together with friends, we hope you have a great time. Just remember to drink responsibly and know your limits.
Let me have your keys.
And always have a safe way home.
See ya. Later.
Enjoy responsibly and always plan ahead.
At the Reedy Mark, we take pride in a unique, distinguished customer experience. We specialize in handcrafted cocktails, allocated bourbons, as well as gourmet signature food items exclusive to our menu at the Reedy Mark in Roseboro.
Looking for training that leads to a high-demand, high-paying career? Bladen Community College can help you get there. Enroll in our welding program and gain the skills and expertise needed to excel in the industry and secure a successful future. Explore our HVAC program, where you will learn to install and service energy-efficient systems to keep homes and businesses comfortable year-round. Learn more at bladencc.edu or give us a call to get started today.
The average American household has 17 devices connected to the internet. With more and more devices able to get online, you may need to increase your internet speed. Call Star Communications today and let us help you select the package that's right for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know's on air. I want to thank you for being with us today. It's National Foster Care Awareness Month, and we're talking with Jane Dudley with the Department of Social Services and MeLisa Newman. Both you guys have been involved in this for some years. The whole foster care system in the state of North Carolina, as far as that goes nationally, is kind of being looked at. And there, you deal with the critical piece of our future collectively. As folks are watching and listening today, here's two people that are dealing with a piece of our future that there is a problem with. It needs tweaking. Something needs to happen. Jane, you used the word a while ago, innovation, innovative ideas. Let's talk about that for a moment and tell us more in detail what you're seeing. But on the other side of that, if you had that magic wand, so to speak, that you corrected, what needs to be done to correct it? I'll start with you and then go, MeLisa, to you, get your observation.
I honestly think that it starts in the home, and it starts with a stable family, a structure within the family. When that family unit starts to deteriorate is when you're going to see social services or law enforcement or any other first responding agency come in to try to respond to what that issue is, whether it's some kind of a drug issue that's going on in the home, medical neglect, just poverty, housing issues. When there's a breakdown of the structure of the family, I think is when you start to see problems. And so we respond. We're not preventative. We're reactive. Right. And so we go in and we react to what we're presented with. JW, I feel like that sometimes I get in a negative mind frame and I have to snap myself out of it, but I feel like that there's just a deterioration of humanity sometimes, that we're on that downward spin, for lack of a better way to describe that. I don't know what the magic wand or the solution would be, but I do know that it starts with the family.
Melissa, I think Jane is onto something here in the sense of looking back at the development of the issue. And I'm hearing other folks mention this. What is your thoughts when you look at that? And is there a specific thing that society needs to look at and look back at themselves and say, how do we not only get involved, but how do we act as preventive agents so you don't see a lot of this in the offices and in the places you visit?
So I think that if we could start with families just wanting to break those generational curses, just because you previously had CPS history or you were a part of Child Protective Services, that you do not invite your children, your offsprings, or the next generation into the same cycle. So to break that generational curse, and if there is CPS environment, then for you to utilize those resources or those services that were front loaded to you during the time that the agency was involved, and you to continue to reach out to those services as you need them. I think the biggest thing that we have seen in the past, and why we have repeat clients come back to the agency, is they stop utilizing those services that once we're out of it, they no longer participate. If a child needed therapy then, that child's continue to need therapy. If there's family therapy that's supporting the family as a whole unit, continue to have that as just a resource to just continue to wrap around and to help the unit. Anything that's put into place to help this family or any families, continue to use those resources.
And it's not just parenting classes or mental health. I have 2 children. Melissa has children. I can tell you that I would not be able to have, my husband works, I work full time. We're very involved in the community. I had both my parents and his parents, our church family, my siblings, aunts and uncles. It's not just about these professional agencies. It's about surrounding yourself with support, your natural supports, the people that you would go to if you had a flat tire on the side of the road, or if you had an emergency where you had to go in the hospital. Who would you call? You wouldn't call your parenting instructor. You would call your natural support. So rallying around families, single mothers, or there's a family in your community or that attends your church, and you see, okay, this is a single mother trying to bring her children to church, or maybe they're not coming to church. But I do think that churches should be more involved. I definitely think that. I mean, we're called to be the hands and feet of Christ.
Absolutely.
So I think that the community should look and see child abuse and maltreatment and neglect are not just a DSS or a law enforcement problem. It's the community's issue. The community should look for opportunities to say, where can I help? Where can I support? Even if it's a stranger, if it's a person that you maybe are an acquaintance with and maybe not friends or a relative, but see, where can you be the hands and feet of Christ?
I think it goes back to a village.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to support the family. Yeah. Know where your village is and lean on that village.
So kind of spinning back from what Jane was saying, Melissa, these critical components we're looking at, is there a need for, a more objective view and for part of or some agency or someone to step out into the community and raise a little green or red flag, whatever color, yellow flag or whatever, and say, look, we're here and we can do this, but if this continues, we're going to be overwhelmed. It clearly, with the statistics you pointed out, we're already overwhelmed as your agency is with foster care homes or the lack of. So when I look at it, and Jane mentioned something, I want to toss it to you, is this something we need to kind of, because one of the things that we've got here in the rural landscape is steeples. Do we need to kind of say to the ministers, to the churches, we got an issue here. You need to step up as part of the foundation of that community social structure?
Yes, most definitely. One of the things is partnership is a process. Partnership within the churches, within other community resources, as well as DSS, law enforcement, all of us need to work together because, as you mentioned, these children are our future. If we do not pour something positive into them, then how are we going to receive positive back? So, yes, aligning with the churches, the ministers, and it's not just the ministers, it's the congregation. Yes, the congregation. It's
doing good, and maybe you're not a religious person or someone that goes to church, but even so, you should, if you're a person, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Melissa, if you're a person who needs help, you should look for who can help you. If you're a person who's in a good way, look for who you can help. So we should all be looking for something, if that makes sense.
It does. But Melissa, I think where you were headed is how do you take that person that, whether it's a church, whether it's a volunteer fire agency or whatever it is, to say, look, we're part of this. We've recognized that this needs to be, that fire is not necessarily a structural fire. It's a fire that's destroying this family or this young lady that's the mother of 3 or 4 or 5 children and she's struggling. We need to step in a positive way without making that person feel shame. So now we're getting into that behavioral health piece because it does develop into something bigger. How do we go there? How do we do that? Who's the person that takes that first step? I mean, because the people listening to this show, it's like I've been explained to me many times. It's not how many people's listening, but if the right person's listening or watching the show, they may say, I'm that person.
Right. I think that also, just kind of thinking back, that, I have a saying, if only I can help one person at a time. So if you are really interested in seeing the good in your community, just go ahead and step up. I mean, don't wait for anybody. Just go ahead and step up. Try to contact whoever within the community that you know. And if you don't know, reach out to us and say, hey, look, there's some things that I want to do. How can I do that? I think about organizations that's always looking to help. They just don't know where to start. So if we can just get that start, somebody willing to say, hey, contact me. I'm the liaison between these two agencies. I can help point you in the right direction. Just being able to just say, hey, I want to see the good in others. I want to help others. That struggling mom that has these kids, starting out, even if it's volunteering. I think about Parks and Recreation all the time. Yeah. helping children develop skills to learn how to be good citizens, working together as team members and doing all those things. You know, that mother being able to take her child to have an outlet, to have some time where she can just be able to decompress and deal with the stresses of life while her child is out there engaging with other people. Mentors, people that want to say, I want to come forward and be positive role models, and how can I help?
And JW, it's not just, we keep saying single mothers. Sometimes it's grandparents. Sometimes it's great-grandparents that are raising their great-grandchildren, and or it could be a single dad. It's not just single mothers. That we see that a lot more, but it's you know, it's getting to be where grandparents are having to step in more and more to raise their grandchildren when they're in retirement age. And so, and it's not, yes, reach out to agencies, but sometimes just look next door. Who's your next door neighbor? Who's the person across the street? Who is, you know, down the road, or again in your church that you can see that, and maybe you don't see a need, but you could ask, hey, is there anything I can do for you? You know, just offer, step up, try, do something, start somewhere. And that goes for every person that has breath in their lungs.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to continue this part of the conversation, because I think this is critically important. What we're talking about now is not just the reality analytically that you can prove that we've got a problem, but the solution, or at least a way to kind of change the trajectory, is to look at some of the things that we're talking about. So when we come back, I want to explore this a bit more and find out who the person is and who the people are that can actually step up and accept that they have a role in this whole process. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking about National Foster Care Awareness Month, local foster care right here in our area. We'll be back in a moment.
At Fisher's, it's not just about fashion. It's about exceptional service. Experience top-notch customer care and find your perfect look. Visit Fisher's today and feel the difference. Looking to refresh your home? At Clinton Appliance and Furniture, we've got everything you need to create the perfect space. We're here to help make your house a home with stylish furniture, appliances, flooring, design services, delivery, and repair. Visit ClintonAppliance.com to explore our selection, or visit us at 401 Northeast Boulevard in Clinton. Shop local. Shop smart. Shop Clinton Appliance and Furniture.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home, so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. We're talking about National Foster Care Awareness Month. We're talking about in a kind of a grassroots level here, right in this community, and the communities that surround us are facing major issues with foster care. Not that it is a challenge, but not that it's something that impacts just social services. It impacts the entire community. And we're talking with two folks that see this on a daily basis, Jane Dudley with the Sampson County Department of Social Services, and also MeLisa Newman. MeLisa, both you guys see the whole foster care thing coming to fruition. You see it in your offices. I've read articles from throughout the state where people have had to sleep over in social services offices, in the office, because they didn't have anywhere to go. And folks say, well, why does that happen? They should have a huge hotel budget to just put them in the hotel. People often maybe look at it and go, well, if people just get straightened out and take care of their lives. But I think we're beyond that. And what I want to do is continue this conversation with you guys on how folks need to understand that this is everybody's problem. Mm-hmm. It's not just social services. It's not just that one family. But if that family is suffering, it seems to me what I hear you guys saying is people need to figure out a way they can step up and step into that storm and help. Let's continue that, and I'll start with you this time, MeLisa.
That's correct, especially families of the family that's in crisis.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for them to understand, yes, there's going to be some involvement with us coming in and out of your home. That's, like I said, to ensure the safety of the children, ensuring that their needs are being met, and also as a layer of support to you. A lot of folks don't understand that, yes, DSS is maybe in your home a couple of times, but we're also there to support the family. Mm-hmm. It's very important for them to know that there's times where it's going to get stressful. There's times that the need may be more than what they thought it was going to be. But the purpose of DSS being there is to support the family. I know that during the time of the CPS involvement, there's a lot of emotions that are high. But once those children cross over to foster care, we're there as a layer of support. Mm-hmm. We're there to ensure safety. We're there to ensure well-being. And we're also there because that's what the state mandates us to be. I'm thinking that as the community grasps and understand the concept of our purpose, that they understand that we're not the enemy. Mm-hmm. We're there to support families, to support children, to ensure safety and well-being. You're going to hear me say that numerous times because that's the whole thing of why we're there. Child welfare.
And I'd like to say,
yes,
JW, to echo what MeLisa just said, the first unit that intervenes if we get a report is Child Protective Services. That's not foster care. That's the first level of intervention. And most of the time, those CPS workers can put a plan in place with the family or some kind of safety measures to keep the child in the home. 90% of the time, we'll keep the children in the home. So the numbers, the most recent numbers show that only 8 to 10% of the time do they actually go to foster care. Mm-hmm. So, and those are Sampson County numbers. And so I'm proud of that number. I'm not proud that we have to remove children, but I am proud that our workers are able to go in, partner with the family, build rapport with the children and the parents, even if the parents have done something wrong. And we can put a plan in place to keep the children safe while we front load services and work with them. We don't go in and just remove children. That's not healthy. That's traumatic. When we remove children from their homes, that is an added trauma that they have to now deal with. Folks will say to us, and MeLisa knows this, y'all just didn't take those children out of that home. Mm-hmm. That's not a simple answer. As I mentioned, most of them go out of the county. They have to leave their communities, and that's traumatic. Yeah. And so it's not just an easy solution for us to just go in and remove them and put them in a foster home. When a lot of times we don't have a foster home to put them in. Mm-hmm. To get back to your point, we are lacking foster homes, and they're having to sleep in DSS where we don't have beds. Mm-hmm. We have blow-up mattresses. So we when that happens, we have couple of mattresses, and we'll go and buy more if we need, based on if it's a sibling set or whatever that has come into care. But they sleep in our visitation room on a blow-up mattress. And while workers are there to monitor them and make sure that they're safe, we're ongoingly looking for placement. But sometimes they've been in our agency for days and looking at four walls, while they're waiting for a home to be placed in.
This, Melissa, is a social, psychological issue. It deals with the child's psyche. They already had issues at home, whatever the situation was, that they were either ejected from the home, they were not being looked after, and then they have to go. I'm putting in my brain here this idea of a small child sleeping on a blow-up mattress on the floor in DSS, and it's not just one DSS. It's all over the state that
and
experiences
the nation, really.
Should we not be looking at this and saying this is totally unacceptable?
It is definitely totally unacceptable. Not only is it unacceptable for the child and the family we deal with, but you got to think about the worker that's already done put in 8 hours, 10 hours, and then has to come in and be a part of a rotation. And then imagine multiplying that by ever how many children that's in that family unit. I think about recently, we taken in 5 kids, 6 kids. They had to be separated. So if somebody gets a placement and the child that has the most difficult behavior does not get a placement, that child's at the agency, but still all of them are separated when they were together. I think for people to really understand, DSS is not paid for taking children. We don't want to take children. We want to keep these children within their family unit, but whenever we have to keep them safe and we have to bring them in, we want to place them with a family that reduces the amount of moves. So not only when we place children, we're not placing children with families just because you have the space. We're trying to do the right placement so we can place that child there to have the least amount of disruptions. Because every time that child disrupts a placement, that child's behavior regresses.
Just to echo something else she just said, JW, we don't get paid to take children. There's a rumor that goes, ever since I've been there 20 years, that we get some kind of bonus when we remove children. It increases. It's definitely traumatic for the child. I'm not taking anything away from that, but it's involves the court system. We now have an extra things that we have to do. We take on guardianship and custody of this child, so we become their legal parent.
So you have responsibility.
We have responsibility. That medical, educational, housing. These are all things that. When you have a social worker who has too many children on their caseload, leads to turnover, leads to burnout for that social worker. No person that's at any DSS, and I believe this, became a social worker to take children. They became social workers because there's something inside of them that wants to help people. There's something inside of them that wants to every day go out and be able to make a difference in someone's life. And yes, for us, that sometimes involves, we can't fix this unless we remove the children for a period of time and work on it in a different way. But we don't become social workers to take children. We become social workers because we want to help people.
One of the things that, one of the key themes of the this year's National Awareness, Foster Care Awareness Month, is they want to, on a national level, is to educate people. What you guys are doing right now is educating us on these issues. And one of the things that you dialed into, Jane, I think is critically important for folks to understand. It's not like that, you see a house fire or a car wreck and you see all the lights and people are there and they're taking care of it and the debris is removed and the problem solved. Yours is an ongoing situation. You have to deal with it not only in the preventative, put together piece, but you have to then follow up. And the weight of that responsibility has got to be tremendous.
It is tremendous. I think about the amount of children that have been in foster care for over 2-3 years. I would say at least 30 kids right now have been in foster care more than 2 to 3 years. So imagine not being able to find permanency for that child, not being able to have a home that child can call forever home because the DSS is no longer working with the parents because the parents didn't complete the necessary steps to have that child reunited with them. So imagine not having that. But I also think about on the opposite end of that, how many family members have stepped up and of taking custody, guardianship, adoption of the children to maintain that family unit, to maintain those family connections. If we could get more families to understand the importance of maintaining that family unit, maintaining those community connections, and allowing that child to grow up in the community that it was raised in, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yes, it's difficult in the beginning steps to have DSS involvement, but more and more that becomes less intense, because the more that we see that that child is safe, we only require to make the minimum visits that the state asks us. In the beginning, it looks like a lot. You may have 2 or 3 workers that's actually working with the family at that time. But like I said, as that case develops and time goes on.
And stabilizes.
You have that one social worker and probably the guardian ad litem working with that family to ensure all those measures are in place and that we make it offer that child permanency so we can step back, take our hands off of it, and let the family move on and have some closure.
Let the family fix their own problem. Right. It's not good for DSS to be involved. We're the government. Nobody wants the government in their business. Nobody wants the government telling them what to do. We come in to stabilize, and the family needs to take over, even if it's extended family.
And we're talking now a lot about the intervention piece. We're coming up on the last part of the show. I want to try to take that opportunity to put into kind of a simple process here as much as we can for folks to remember what and when they can step in. At what time do they either report or they say, I'm willing to help, or they pick up the phone and call one of you guys and say, look, hey, Jane, I want to get involved in this. I just saw a situation, and encourage people to do that. It's not a volatile world. It's something that they will feel good about. And I like the particular thing you said about folks doing this job. You're there because your heart's in it. It's definitely not the salary. So I want to kind of look at those pieces, the last part of the show on that, to kind of give people a step-by-step process. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
Providing fewer commutes, more backyard offices, and crystal clear meetings. Providing less, you froze up, and more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
We find in life that some things just go together. Like peanut butter and jelly, cheese and crackers, steak and potatoes, and of course, milk and cookies. But the bottle and the throttle are never a good combination. Be smart. Be safe. Be responsible. Don't drink and drive.
How can your friend save you money? It's easy. Refer a relative, coworker, neighbor, or friend to Star Communications. Friend signs up for high-speed internet service. Friend's new account is confirmed. Friend gives your name to our service representative as the one who referred them to Star. You receive a $30 internet credit. It's just that simple. And even better, receive a $30 internet credit for every referral that results in a new confirmed account. High-speed internet from Star Communications. Refer a friend today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know's on there. Coming up on the last part of the show today, we come to you each and every week on Tuesdays at 2:30 on Star Communications TV Channel 16, also simulcast on WCLN Radio. There's a replay at 7 p.m. Tuesday and Thursday. You can pick up the show then in case you miss it on Tuesday at 2:30. It's also uploaded to social media platforms, so you can pick it up there. It's an education show, information show. Today we're talking about a critical part of the need for more education, and that's foster care. Ladies, again, we started the show today with National Foster Care Awareness Month in May, and the idea of getting information out is so critically important. We've talked about so many facets. One of the things that I think that's a key part of this conversation, I'd like to kind of get into it a little bit on the last part of the show, is it keeps coming back to total community involvement. And with that said, for parents, for just the average person out there, for the church people, for folks that are involved in community activities, civic clubs, there's an erosion. I'm hearing this, and you tell me if I'm receiving it wrong, but I'm hearing from you that you're seeing a key part of the erosion of a very wonderful society that's being disrupted when the family is disturbed. And that is something that ends up on the floors in social services, on blow up mattresses. It ends up in disastrous situation with needless activity in the communities. And the only expectation, it should not be, but it seems the only expectation is to call one of you and say, hey, well, I got this problem. There's a child sleeping beside the road in my mailbox, but I'm not getting involved. Help us understand. Let's break it back down to the key facts.
When we have two ladies at DSS who are our intake workers, they receive intakes for APS and CPS. One of the questions, it's a standardized questionnaire when we receive reports. One of the questions that they ask reporters is, what have you done to assist the family? And sometimes people get offended by that. But it's a question it's a state form. We're trying to understand has anybody intervened? Has anything? This is the last straw. DSS is the last straw. What have you done to help? And I guess I can maybe understand that. People think, well, it's not my responsibility to do anything. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Whether you're a medical provider, whether you're a neighbor, whether you're a grandparent, whoever, there's always something that most of the time, maybe not always, but most of the time, I think there are things that could have been done before you call DSS.
Listen, do you get the sense that folks just want to deflect it because they don't want to get involved, they don't want to put that energy out, but yet at the same time, if they see a pet beside the road somewhere, they pick up the pet and take it to the veterinarian, but yet we're talking about human beings here. Are we missing something as a society in understanding what the real role is? These are human beings that are just being discarded.
I think a lot of times it's fear. I think it's fear of getting involved, especially if a family has domestic violence issues, if there's drug issues, fear of retaliation. I think that if we need to discard that fear and really just step up for the innocent ones that are really being affected by the problem. Yes, I agree. It seems like that an animal gets more attention than helping another human being. I do understand that, we are in times now where it is dangerous to help others. But I think that if we really look at the ones that are suffering behind it, the little children, that we need to put that fear aside and step up and do what's right for them.
Jane, I think about sometimes that children's always amaze me, and especially the young toddlers and so forth, but they're like little recorders. What they see in their environment and what they replicate in their brain is often things that are happening, but we as adults and supposed to be responsible people, we miss it. And then they act out maybe a negative behavior. Maybe it's parents or adults that are doing something or saying something or anger or frustration, and they're picking up on every one of those little vibrations.
Yeah, even they pick up on things at school. I mean, any environment that they're in, they're very susceptible and impressionable. So it's important for parents to keep a handle on the environment that their child is in. We get involved often with supervision issues. Maybe a parent is not keeping a good eye on their child or even people that they're around. We have questionable people in our community, registered sex offenders. The state revised some of our policy a couple of years back that if a registered sex offender lives in the home, we have to intervene and just check it out. That wasn't always the case. When I started 20 years ago, just a report of a registered sex offender living in the home was not an accepted report. And the state told us that's, you have to have an allegation that something's happening. That's changed now. I think that's a good thing. But it's just keeping a handle on what your children are being exposed to, picking up.
Both of you people are involved in the community. You're like the rest of us. You go to the grocery store, you go different places, and you're involved in your communities. Do you traveling, and I love to ask these questions every time I have James say, every time I come on, you kind of go there. But I just want to know, when you're traveling around in the community, whether it's a grocery store, wherever it may be, do you have those moments that you look and go, wait a minute, what's going on with that child? I'm seeing something that's just not right here. And did you feel like even if you don't act, did you feel like you need to engage?
I mean, yes, there are. But that's because that's what we do every day, all day. And I was telling you before we started airing, I grew up here. Yeah. I graduated from Clinton High School. This is my community. And my time at DSS has made me look at things differently. Growing up, I was very naive about the problems and the social problems that go on here. And now I just look at things differently, but we can't intervene in everything. Right. I have my opinion about what good parenting looks like, but unless the statutes govern us and our policy governs us about what we can intervene in. But even if we did intervene, we're not coming to say we're DSS and we're, here's our badge, blah, blah. It's how can I assist you? Is there anything I can do right now to help you? If you see something going on in a grocery store or Walmart or something like that, how can you help? Again, how can you help the situation and not make it worse?
Melissa, you mentioned something too. I think it was that if you get involved, there's people that have this sense that, well, I could get in trouble if I get involved. But it's kind of hard at times. And everybody out there, you mentioned various grocery stores, Walmart, different places. I guarantee you, everybody listening or watching the show is thinking, well, I saw something the other day. I knew it wasn't right. But is there a point that folks could say, okay, at this point, you definitely need to get involved? Is there some kind of scale that folks need to be thinking about?
Well, I think about it like this. We are all technically mandated reporters. If you see something wrong, you tell it. Right. There's no, this was really, really small, so I'm gonna let this slide. This is really, really big, so I'm gonna tell this. Tell it and let us as an agency decide whether that is a report that needs to be screened in or screened out. Your job as someone that has observed something that you feel like is wrong is to report that and then let DSS decide what to do with it next. But get it off of you. Don't hold on to it, because you're not going to be able to rest whether it's something small or whether it's something big. And I want to kind of go back to what you was talking about with children doing things. There's a great quote. Children are great imitators. So give them something good to imitate. Do not, surround them with positive interactions, positive environment. Do not provide them with anything negative, because that's the type of behavior that they're going to mimic.
I had a public school teacher tell me one time that she could look at her class in the morning when they come in and see the children that had problems at home. She could actually see it.
Teachers know kids better than anybody. We depend on teachers to tell us, and because when we go in, we're strangers. But that teacher, is someone that knows their favorite, what do they like, hot dogs or hamburgers at lunch? And what on the playground do they prefer to the swing or the monkey bars? They learn their children in their classrooms over months, the school year. We depend on our teachers.
As we're coming to close here, about 2 minutes, but as we come to close and think about this show, what we've tried to put out today and what you guys have so eloquently put out, there's a point in time that they need to reach out to you, and that's in that critical stage when there's obviously something going on. But if somebody just says today, I want to get involved, I'm not really sure I want to be a foster care person, but I want to reach out, should they call you and say, look, I'm so-and-so, and I heard this or saw you guys talking about this. What can I do? Is that a good thing to do? Is just say they can call social
services? And there's special times through the year that our community really steps up. We have our Christmas cheer program. We have the over 100 kids in foster care who we always try to provide a good Christmas for. We also work with families at Thanksgiving that can't afford a turkey. So we have agencies or churches and different folks in the community who at times want to step up, but we don't need that just at Thanksgiving and Christmas. We need things throughout the year to help supplement what we can do, but there's things we can't do. We can't do everything. We don't have an unlimited budget. So yes, they can reach out to us and they can just say, what can we do to help? If they don't have if they have a report, sure, call and make that report. But they may want to call in and just say, I'm a citizen that wants to make an impact. What can I do? And we can give them some suggestions.
Well, Jane, again, I want to thank you for being on the show. Again, let's thank you. This is your first time on. Maybe you come back and we can talk again. But clearly, we've covered a number of issues that hopefully people will discover. That the theme today is be part of the solution. Don't step back and say, well, somebody else is going to take care of it. This is a critical piece that folks, I think, need to understand the dynamics of it. So, again, I welcome you back anytime if there's anything that we can do to help. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you again next week right here, and may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.